Hi, everybody. It is June 9th, 2026, and welcome to Geopolitics. We're going to be covering the massive developments today. The breaking news that Trump has retaliated against Iran for essentially striking an Apache helicopter, allegedly, but the Iranians did not take credit for it. And that's kind of the weird part. This also takes place one day after the USS Liberty anniversary, and a lot of different alternative media personalities, they're suggesting that maybe this is a false flag. Maybe this is something to get America back into this war, re-involved. Or maybe Trump is intentionally trying to re-involve himself into the war and the United States into this war. What stands to gain? Well, I always tell you, pay attention to the Abraham Accords. That is the real incentive to stay in this war. But we're going to be covering this entire event. We're going to be covering all the massive developments that happened today, the strikes on Lebanon that took place in Tyre by the Israelis, and all of these different developments that are happening. Again, it is a wild day in the media. So again, be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe. Be sure to check out all of our shorts on Geopolitics. That's where I post up most of the biggest updates on all the news that's happening. And of course, at the end of the day, be sure to support me on Substack even. But at the end of the day, let's get right into the news. So again, Trump vows response after claiming Iran shot down U.S. Apache helicopter over the Strait of Hormuz. And again, so pretty crazy. Iran is responsible for shooting down a U.S. Apache helicopter Tuesday, President Donald Trump claimed in a Tuesday post on Truth Social. Two senior officials told Fox News that the helicopter was downed by an Iranian drone. U.S. Central Command announced the two pilots in the Apache were rescued by an autonomous underwater drone in a first-of-its-kind mission. Iran and Israel exchanged missile barrages Sunday night before Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the Iranian officials indicated they would agree to a request from President Donald Trump to stop the shooting. The U.S. is maintaining an ongoing naval blockade in the Strait of Hormuz, which Trump said on Truth Social will remain in place and in full force and effect until a final deal is reached. Israel issued evacuation orders to Lebanon's ancient city Tyre on Monday, citing Hezbollah violation of a ceasefire. Evacuation included Christian Quarter, an area previously left unbothered by Israeli strikes. But again, interestingly enough, the Israelis are still moving northward all the way up to Nabatea. And so at the end of the day, this war is continuing on. And I've been saying this for the past few weeks, that this war is likely not going to come to an end anytime soon because it is a war of attrition. Ultimately, the Iranians are not getting what they want out of the deal. They want no sanctions. They want their money unfrozen. They want to have full control over the Strait of Hormuz. Trump does not, and also the Iranians want to enrich their nuclear program. On the flip side, all of the opposite for the United States as far as our demands go. Trump wants the Iranians to have no nuclear enrichment program or ability to enrich nuclear. Trump wants to not end any of the sanctions. And as well, Trump also does not intend to essentially let any of this go. He doesn't want to really end this war, in my opinion. And again, this all goes by the bequest of Prime Minister Netanyahu. At the end of the day, it all comes back to Israel. Israel seems to be the country who is truly trying to continue this war. Even the media is saying, well, Hezbollah broke the ceasefire. Well, it was actually Iran. It was actually the Israelis, though, when we really look at it. Okay, so as we continue looking at this, let's take a look at some of this breaking news. So again, this was the strike that took place today, just recently, right before this stream. And that's why I had to stream a little bit. This is why I had to stream a little bit later than typical. I usually start this stream at 7 p.m., but I wanted to make a YouTube short encapsulating all of the events. So that's just one piece of footage. Wish I would have gotten that footage. We would have put that in. I would have put this in the YouTube short, but wasn't able to get it in time. But ultimately, this is what you're seeing. This is Qasem Island. And this is the U.S. strikes on Qasem Island. And so that is pretty huge. So again, here's the coverage and everything that's new with this story.
Fox News alert the U.S. military conducting new strikes in Iran. Quote, U.S. Central Command forces began launching self-defense strikes against Iran at 5 p.m. Eastern today at the Commander-in-Chief's direction in response to yesterday's downing of a U.S. Army Apache helicopter. The mission is a proportional response to unjustified Iranian aggression. So, Dana Perino. Oh, we have Jennifer. Let's go to Jennifer.
Hi, Jesse. Well, we've just gotten word that based on that CENTCOM statement, we had extended this. The president had indicated that he must respond given that there were 2 Americans in that Apache helicopter that had to be rescued at sea earlier today. So we were expecting this. But what's interesting from the statement that CENTCOM just put out is that it described these as defensive strikes, and they said that they would be proportional. So what we're looking at right now, there are some indications there's some explosions in a port city called Sirik. We're getting the initial reports of the ongoing strikes from the Iranians themselves. The Iranian foreign minister earlier today had warned that if the U.S. escalated, there would be a very, very big response. The foreign ministry had been putting out statements suggesting that maybe the Iranians had not put any drones up in the air over the Strait of Hormuz in the last 24 hours, but we know from U.S. defense officials that they saw multiple drones fired by the Iranians over the Strait of Hormuz, and that one of those drones, in fact, hit the Apache helicopter, which was flying low to the water when it was struck. But the Apache itself was hit by one of those Shahed drones. The 2 crew members who were rescued are safe right now. They are stable. But what is notable is that they were rescued by this autonomous drone, this surface vessel. It's the first time that a Corsair is a 24-foot sea drone. It was sent to rescue these 2 crewmen who were in the water for 2 hours. But that was the quickest and safest way to rescue those 2 airmen who went down with the Apache helicopter. But it made history in terms of the rescue, because this Corsair, which is made by the company Saronic, and it's the first time we've ever heard that it's been used for this kind of a rescue, and no other military has this kind of a vessel. It's really an extraordinary vessel because it can carry a 1,000-pound payload, it can go 1,000 nautical miles, and now we know it can rescue airmen.
So again, when we look at this entire story, it is crazy. Okay, so when we look at the background of this, since 2026 Iran war erupted in late February, Iran has repeatedly struck Iranian Kurdish opposition groups, the PDKI, Kamala, and PAK, based in Iraq's Kurdistan region, viewing them as U.S.-backed threats. Attacks on Erbil and Sulaymaniyah areas have continued despite ceasefires. Today's developments, Iran's targets were Erbil and Sulaymaniyah regions, Iraqi Kurdistan opposition camps, and again, for the U.S. retaliation, it was Bandar Abbas, Qasem Island, and Sarik, southern Iran. And these were their air defenses, radars, and naval sites. So the trigger was that the U.S. AH-64 Apache was shot down near the Strait of Hormuz on June 8th. Iran denies the deliberate attack, cites possible accident or a ceasefire. Trump blamed Iran. U.S. launched proportional strikes on June 9th, as we've seen in these videos. So the analysis here for me is that these dual-front actions test fragile ceasefires. Iran pressures Kurdish proxies in Iraq while contesting the Gulf. U.S. defends partners and assets, risks further escalation in a volatile region already strained since February. Situation seems to be fluid, though, at this time. And again, when we're looking at all of this, it's pretty crazy. Okay, so it's not ending anytime soon. As I've been saying for weeks now, this war is only picking up. It's only ramping. On Iran in retaliation for downing the helicopter, CENTCOM says. Again, we looked at a lot of this. President Donald Trump says today that the Iran shot down an American military helicopter while it was patrolling over the Strait of Hormuz, and he vowed that the U.S. would respond to this attack. Iran did not claim the attack, and this is very interesting. So is this a false flag? Is this a false flag, potentially, possibly perpetrated by our greatest allies or another region even? Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi wrote today on X that the U.S. forces are putting themselves at risk by being in the region, but did not mention an Iranian drowning in the helicopter. So again, when we look at all of this, it's pretty crazy. This war isn't ending anytime soon, and the only way we're going to be ending it is if there's diplomacy, and we seem to have none. There seems to be very little diplomacy happening. Meanwhile, Israeli airstrikes hit Lebanese city of Tyre despite Iranian warning to stop. This was 6 hours ago. Israel has carried out strikes across southern Lebanon despite a warning from Iran not to continue the attacks in the country. The Lebanese health ministry said 8 people were killed in Tyre, where the Israeli military issued a new order for residents to leave the southern city, including Christian Quarter. Of course, it's Christian. Why is it? It's always the Christian villages. Why is that? Israel and Iran paused hostilities on Monday after an Israeli strike on Beirut targeting the Iranian-backed armed group Hezbollah triggered their first exchange of fire since the truce in April. Iran warned that it could hit Israel again if it did not stop attacks in Lebanon. But Israel vowed to continue its campaign against Hezbollah. The conflict is complicating President Donald Trump's efforts to make a deal and to end the war between the U.S., Israel, and Iran. So again, Prime Minister Netanyahu's taking control, and what this is blitzkrieg. Okay, this is fast motion, fast movement in this war, and he's not slowing down. And actually what the Israelis are doing, they are testing the Iranians. They're saying, hey, we're going to see how far we can take you. Are you going to be able to stop us? What are you going to do if we do this? Are you going to fight us and, continue striking if we do this? How far are you willing to go? And all of this is a test at the end of the day. And of course, I find it interesting when you make the connections that this all happened one day after the 57th anniversary of the USS Liberty. Again, that was a critical date in time where one of our own U.S. vessels was attacked by the Israelis under what they called the fog of war, or an accident. And again, over 800 holes in the entire vessel, 171 wounded. Pretty bad. It was pretty bad. So very dangerous. And again, it's a dangerous time to be alive. Alex Jones covered this a little bit, and I actually did want to entertain some of his theories here, because at the end of the day, we have to be able to analyze all perspectives. Alex Jones says that the U.S. helicopter shot down near Strait of Hormuz, and when Trump said that the U.S. must respond, Iran has not taken credit for it. So this could be an Israeli false flag to drag the U.S. back into a war with Iran. Well, it would make sense, ultimately, because really, who does this war benefit? Who needs this war to continue? Well, it appears to be the Israelis and Prime Minister Netanyahu. Remember, Prime Minister Netanyahu is also under trial right now. The longer he's basically continuing this war, the longer he stays out of trial. And then again, we also have Ben-Gvir, who is basically like Netanyahu's number 2 in Israel. And again, he's been saying we also need to continue this war. We need to say no to the United States. So the Israelis are not cooperating. All the Gulf states are willing to end this war. All of the Gulf states are willing to pretty much come to some kind of peace agreement. It seems that the state of Israel is the only country who is not willing to come to some kind of agreement. So let's take a look at this video. Alex Jones raises the question and points out that it happened on the anniversary of Israel's confirmed false flag on the USS Liberty.
An Apache helicopter of the Strait of Hormuz got shot down. The pilots were saying this is just now breaking. Trump says U.S. must respond after Iran shoots down helicopter over Strait of Hormuz. Iran we can't find a statement yet. It's not taken credit for it. So Israel every time has gone in and hit Lebanon, hit other areas, hit Iran. Every time there's a peace deal, Trump said, don't do it again. And then is Trump going to just buy this?
President Trump says American helicopter pilots are safe this morning after an Apache gunship went down near the Strait of Hormuz.
The pilots are fine, yeah.
And what?
Nobody injured. We are going to issue a report tomorrow, but the pilots are fine.
This morning, U.S. Central Command saying the helicopter went down while it was, quote, patrolling regional waters, and that the soldiers were rescued within 2 hours and are in stable condition.
It's important to add again, we've been checking, the Iranians have not taken.
Again, it's crazy also because they were rescued by an autonomous vessel. It was like an AI autonomous vessel, so that's pretty interesting. It was an underwater autonomous vessel.
Credit. The Afghanistan Army, whatever that is, says just in, media claims the IRGC has shot down a U.S. AH-64 Apache helicopter of the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. sources confirm an Apache went down in the area, but the cause remains unclear. Reports indicate all crew members were successfully rescued. Now, Trump late last night made that statement, but then there was no coverage until about 30 minutes ago. Now it's everywhere that Iran did it. Iran is silent from what we've seen. We're going to try to find out, but this is all very suspicious on the anniversary of the USS Liberty, which is a confirmed Israeli false flag.
Now, again, it is important to note that when we look at this, there was confirmations from CENTCOM that there was allegedly Iranian drones in that area while that chopper was flying low to the ground, low to the surface. So something to think about there. So ultimately, I didn't mean to tap on that, but be sure to buy some of Alex Jones's products, support the show. But I did not mean to click on that. So again, let's continue this video.
I interviewed the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff before he died, and the Judge Advocate Generals, and they saw the classified material where they planned to sink the ship, but Israelis couldn't sink it despite torpedoes and thousands of holes and cannons and rockets and everything else and napalm. I was saying yesterday, I wonder if Israel will do a false flag on the anniversary. Well, Iran is not taking credit. An Apache helicopter of the Strait of Hormuz got shot down. The pilots were saying this is just now breaking.
The Iranians aren't even taking credit for this entire attack. And it's very interesting, again, that this is the 57th anniversary of the USS Liberty attack, which was by the Israelis. And it was an entire false flag operation. And a lot of U.S. veterans, naval veterans, have come out and said the same thing. So this isn't just Brendan Eckert's opinion. This seems to be the discourse of what a lot of different veterans are saying.
Trump says U.S. must respond after Iran shoots down helicopter over Strait of Hormuz. Iran has, we can't find a statement yet. It's not taken credit for it. So Israel every time has gone in and hit Lebanon, hit other areas, hit Iran. Every time there's a peace deal, Trump said, don't do it again. And then is Trump going to just buy this? Why would the Iranians, now I know their forces are compartmentalized, and so I'm not going to say some Iranian with a missile might not have taken a pot shot at the Apache, but this has to be investigated as a potential false flag because of the timing. Victor Boot.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, first of all, this is not first time. It most probably a false flag attack, because Iranian very accurate. When they, doing something, they immediately putting and said, we shot down this, we shot down that. And it was never, any exaggeration in their report.
And they always say, we just fired, they always say, we just fired missiles. And it turned out, even in some of the Arab countries, they say, we don't think these drones came out of Iran 2 weeks ago. And remember the false flag 2 weeks ago? Blamed on Russia with the drones.
The recent attack, it was on the where it was in Qatar, I guess, when this was a direct hit into the center used for logistics for military purposes. Then Iranians came and said, hey, it's not our job, we never aim on it. This is a false flag operation, and this is over and over. During the past 3 months, Iranians several times stepped forward and said, we never attacked that facility or another one, because when they attack, including even data centers, including the banks belonging to United States and United Arab Emirates or other facilities, they would be always, openly saying, yes, this was our target, we hit it, and this is how and why we did it. But when the Israelis using and blame on them something to do, or some other forces, that's eventually 100% qualifying like a false flag attack. And then, we hope that at least Trump administration will take really, serious attention to that matter, investigate. If Iranian says, no, they didn't shut down the Apache helicopter, that's probably so, because Iranians are not interested in escalation. And believe me, they just been forced to answer. And this was the recent attack on Israel was only way to bring the attention that the Israelis, despite the agreement, that they have a ceasefire, including Lebanon, are still keeping bombing and killing every day people in Lebanon, including children, just, flattening areas like in Gaza, in the southern Lebanon.
I agree. We'll get to that. We'll get to Israel's war crimes next segment. That's important to review, but unfortunately, we got video of this when we come back, or we'll go to it right now. Trump says U.S. must respond after Iran shoots down a helicopter over the Strait of Hormuz. And then you got Afghan channels saying, oh, yeah, Iran did it. You follow those channels, it's connected back to Vault 7 type behavior. So just because you see something on X doesn't mean it's true. Here's a short excerpt. Trump just...
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really fishy when you look at all of this. When you look at this entire thing, it seems to me that there's a lot of signs that point to a potential false flag. Absolutely, in every way, that could be very possible. Because, again, who does it really incentivize to get back into this war? And also, we also have to remember, it does incentivize Donald Trump to stay in the Iran war, because don't forget that Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff have been running this entire, the entire Abraham Accords and this entire real estate deal, where New Gaza is going to be located, and all of these things. They're also buying Albania, a section of Albania right now, an endangered species land. And so ultimately, you're looking at all of these developments, and of course, maybe Trump doesn't want to get out of this war. Maybe it actually does benefit him to stay in it, and maybe this was a way for him to stay involved in the war. Otherwise, why would he do it?
Has bought it so far, and looks like he's taking the bait here. But this is just perfect timing. I'm not saying it's a false flag, but all evidence points towards it. And Victor, you said a few weeks ago that attack that they said Russia did with the drone, turned out they had to back off, and that now they don't know where the drone came from. So expect a lot more of this. Let's go to this clip of the president. Here it is.
President Trump says American helicopter pilots are safe this morning after an Apache gunship went down near the Strait of Hormuz.
The pilots are fine, yeah.
And what?
Nobody injured. We are going to issue a report tomorrow but the pilots are fine.
This morning, U.S. Central Command saying the helicopter went down while it was, quote, patrolling regional waters, and that the soldiers were rescued within 2 hours and are in stable condition. Apache helicopters are part of the U.S. military's presence in the Persian Gulf, where Iran and the U.S. are in a blockade standoff, with Iran blocking the Strait of Hormuz and the U.S. blocking access to Iran's ports, turning back and disabling ships. The competing closures are driving up oil prices. President Trump says the American one is working to pressure Iran to make concessions.
The blockade continues to hold.
Let's stop there. We're going to come back from break with Victor Book.
So yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, this is pretty much what's happening. And when you look at all of this, it is pretty wild to see that this is where we're going. This is where the direction of this is going. The war is likely going to continue when you see all of these different signs. This is where everything points to. Okay, and so when we look at the maritime traffic in the Strait of Hormuz, we also have to understand that, again, this war isn't slowing down. Okay, so we look at the areas that we've been looking at for weeks now, right? We have restricted airspace in this area, but this is, again, we're looking at marine traffic here. Again, there's very limited flow through in this area, right? The Strait of Hormuz, this is where all the traffic needs to go through. And then simultaneously, you still have a lot of anchored vessels in this blockade over here. Oh, wow. Not anymore. Okay, never mind. For some reason, it's like disappearing when I zoom in. There we go. You have a lot of congestion, and here's really where the U.S. blockade is, right here. Again, just right near Fujairah. A lot of these insurance companies are not feeling very good about sending these vessels through the Strait of Hormuz because, again, they don't want to get bombed. Look at what happened to this Apache helicopter, allegedly. And so when we look at this, again, Qasem Island has just been bombed today, and this is Qasem Island, what we're looking at right here. And so this is really what pretty much got targeted. Okay, and what do you think got targeted? Ultimately, it could have been anything, but I'm always looking at where these satellites seem to point towards energy facilities. And usually you'll see these energy facilities kind of in the middle of nowhere. You'll see them kind of off the water. Sometimes they need that. And so it'll be these kind of locations right here. For example, this is more of an airport. But Qasem Island essentially has been pretty much struck. Okay, so again, they're targeting this area because they want the oil and they want all of the resources in this area. And then on top of that, Trump also wants Karg Island, which is north of the Persian Gulf. And again, of course, we still have vessels in this area. So as we can see here, we have different developments. So again, ships, services, suppliers, but mostly when you look at these are all Iranian vessels, multi-purpose offshore vessels. Again, multi-purpose offshore vessel. You'll see a lot of fishing boats here in the area, and you'll see a lot of these different, usually just all Iranian ships. And they're guarding this island because they know that the United States wants this Karg Island. So we've been keeping an eye on this to see if anything changes in this area. Again, they want it because Karg Island is a nuclear, or is a power, essentially a big power and nuclear energy, all of these things, big import-export zone. And if we control that, we control a lot of the region. Again, still have a lot of anchored up crude oil tankers in this area, as you can see from the little red dots here. Few are in motion. And again, Kuwait City, according to X, we have a lot of strikes that have been hitting Kuwait because, again, Kuwait has been siding with the United States and Israel against Iran. And the Iranians see that as a betrayal. And then we also have the Red Sea, which, again, Iran has also threatened to close to Israel and not allow them access to it, which would severely damage their economy. But again, especially the Bab el-Mandeb Strait in this specific area, they want to close this off, where my cursor is. And so this is what the Iranians are really planning on. They're going to play some economic warfare. The Iranians understand that the longer they keep the strait closed, the longer they keep the economy basically at a standstill, it also affects the United States market, but especially everyone else's market. If it affects the U.S. market, then it's going to affect everybody else twice as bad because we're the leading currency. We have the U.S. dollar, all of those reasons. And again, you have the you have the Suez Canal here. Again, limited flow through, limited traffic, a lot of anchored up vessels in this area. What does that tell us? That tells us that insurance companies are not feeling good about sending them through that Suez Canal over here to Port Said, or vice versa, back and forth. So you have a lot of anchored vessels in this area. So again, there's still traffic there's still movement, there's still trade. It's just highly limited. You have no traffic going into Gaza and Israel. And then as we look northward to Tel Aviv, also limited traffic here versus usual. So usually we do have more traffic in this space around this time. But because of these strikes, maybe that's a reason that their insurance companies are not feeling good about sending any kind of ships through that zone. Now it looks like Cyprus seems to be, again, that central hub of trade at the moment between our country, the EU, and then Israel. And again, we have southern Lebanon, Tyre, which has just been attacked by the Israelis. And this is really what you've been watching videos of on X. If you go on my YouTube shorts, you can see videos of where this war has been taking it. But again, you could see all of these different areas. And this is one of the most ancient cities on Earth. And again, this is what has been under attack. So again, the Israelis have been targeting mostly Tyre, Lebanon, all the way, or southbound, or southward, all the way up to Tyre, to Nabatea, which is where they struck a hospital, right here where my cursor is. And then Odessa, which is a big war zone in that area. So when we look at this, got a lot of big developments happening here. So we will see. And then, of course, the Israelis are focusing heavily on Beirut right now. They want Beirut, they want the entire area, and they have a lot of stronghold over that area, as they have for about a decade or two now. Really since Desert Storm, much longer actually. So again, that's kind of what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz when it comes to maritime traffic. We still have a lot of vessels being forced to go under that southern tip of Africa, all the way around into Spain and Europe and these areas. And we're also being forced to go to Sri Lanka, which is another big U.S. trade port here, just south of India. And so you'll see a lot of trade happening here as well. So when we look at all of this, very interesting to say the least. What does it mean for the markets? How is this affecting the oil prices? So right now, the oil prices are at $89.43 a barrel for WTI crude. Brent crude is at $92.72. Murban crude is at $88.06. And natural gas is at $3.13. So for some reason, oil has not gone up yet. But maybe that's just because of Trump's statements. But at the same time, who knows what's really going to happen here? When it comes to all of this, it's going to be interesting to see where these oil prices go as this continues ramping up. So expect these prices to possibly go up over the next few days, over the next few weeks potentially, unless we do come to an actual ceasefire, not just the talk and the doublespeak that we've been hearing for the past few months, really since February. So again, the stock market today, NASDAQ rebounds session lows. A recent tech rebound, an abrupt slide in a session that has a bit of everything. Stocks finished well off their session lows. Tech stocks continue to weigh on indexes, with the NASDAQ composite down at 1% at the 4 p.m. Eastern close. But indexes were off far more at about 12:40 p.m. when they started pairing losses. Analysts gave a variety of reasons for the day's volatile trading. Investors taking profits from the big tech run-up, worries about interest rates. Some noted that SpaceX expects to list its stock later this week, and the prospect of another trillion-dollar-plus company hitting the market may be causing investors to reposition at the expense of other major tech names. So as all of this is happening, you also have big tech making moves, right? You have Saline, Michigan, where AI data centers are being made. I mean, you want to talk about business, you want to talk about entrepreneurship, a lot of your money is going to be in business and AI data centers. This is where a lot of the GDP is supposed to be. That's what they say. And ultimately, that's where it's going. Again, microchips, again, all of these things, semiconductors, semi-processors, this is really where the future is. Chip stocks remained at a pressure point even after stocks recovered ground. Same companies that have stopped stocks, recent gains are posting big losses, highlighting concerns that only a small group of stocks have powered recent records. So again, the stock market's pretty much doing the same things that we usually see, is hanging around the same numbers. Meanwhile, Coinbase is even lower on the fear and greed index than we saw yesterday. Yesterday, for crypto, the fear and greed index was at 16, which is not good. And today it's at 14. The prices are even lower than they were yesterday. Again, Bitcoin's down 1.37% from yesterday and down 7.52% over the last 7 days at 61,000. Ethereum's at 1,638, again down 12% in the last 7 days. And then we have XRP, which is down about 6.97% in the last 7 days. and down 2% today, down to $1.13. So crypto seems to be getting hit pretty hard. But again, all of this is awaiting the Clarity Act, like we always say in every episode. So that's until we have legislation and laws, you will never see any kind of real price action, especially when banks are waiting on this Clarity Act for in order to put trillions of dollars of inflow into this market. Meanwhile, gold prices are down at $4,208.44 an ounce, and silver is at $64.47 an ounce. So again, silver's down 5.79% since yesterday, and gold's down 3.03% since yesterday. So again, I wanted to look at some other stories and some breaking news. Let's see what else is new, because again, there's just been a lot of news in the algorithm since we really started this. So let's just see anything that's new in the algorithm. Again, be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe as well. So again, we have a lot of the same kind of stuff that you'll see on X. You'll see a lot of race baiting. You'll see a lot of that kind of stuff. Mario Nawfal breaking: multiple explosions have been heard in the last few minutes near Bandar Abbas in southern Iran's Hormozgan province. Bandar Abbas is the crown jewel of this coastline, the IRGC's Navy main hub, and the command center for everything Iran does in the Strait of Hormuz. It appeared on the early unconfirmed target list, and blasts there now would mark its second round of the night. So again, this is where this is. Again, Bandar Abbas. And we've been seeing this area get hit pretty hard. Okay, so ultimately we have that. Powerful strike against Iran. U.S. naval and air forces in Iran targeted a command center, air defense systems, radar installations, a drone storage facility, and missile launchers in ongoing joint operations. They also struck Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps sites on Qasem Island, in Bandar Abbas, on Sarik Island, and in Bandar Jask. So again, here's some footage of that. When we look at that, pretty wild. So you got to pay attention to where these little islands are. Again, Abu Musa, Lesser Tum, Greater Tun, and again, Qasem Island. So this is where we're looking at on the map. Again, we pointed this out just a few minutes ago when we were looking at maritime traffic and everything going on with that. But this is where those islands are pretty much located that were struck. So important to take notice of these little islands and these areas of focus for the U.S. military. Okay, again, when we look back at that, we'll look at it one more time. This is where that is, just to get you more insight and more perspective into what we're talking about here. So when we look at these islands, it's pretty crazy what's going on. Okay, you have Qasem Island, and you have all these different islands over here that are being affected. Again, Kish Island, and it's pretty crazy. So we want all these small islands because they want to control, basically, this entire region. And controlling these islands kind of allows us to do that, right? And so that is what people need to pay attention to. So when we look at all of it, pretty wild. So again, let's also look at some flight tracking here and see what's going on with that. Also got to focus on everything that's new when it comes to the biggest flights that are being tracked. Okay, so today, the number one flight being tracked is the IRA 1561, Iran Air. And so when we look at this flight path, we see it moving, again, from its original location. And where is that? Yeah, right about at the Red Sea. This is a big trade port in the Red Sea. And you'll see a lot of naval vessels here as well. So that's interesting. They're getting a lot of their resources, and they're bringing it across the country. And you're seeing that go right back to Iran. And they're going into Tehran, or flying over Tehran. So kind of interesting to look at that. But the question is, what is the main objective? What is the main incentive? Who really stands to gain from this entire war? Is it the United States? Maybe, maybe not. Again, this is an Israeli flight that was tracked. Again, of course, C-130, U.S. Air Force, and a lot of interesting developments here. So when we look at this flight pattern, looks like we have a lot of circles. So this is kind of interesting. So a lot of this could be refueling patterns, but at the same time, looks like they could be avoiding certain areas. This isn't really regular. Ultimately, it could be a lot of surveillance, could be a lot of different, could be training, who knows. That looks like it could potentially be training patterns, or at the same time, again, it could be refueling patterns and all of that. Again, they are just near Kuwait here, just south of Kuwait. And again, this entire area in the Persian Gulf is a war zone. So when you look at all of it, pretty wild. Again, where did this come from? Well, when we look at the flight path, seems to have come directly from Israel. So why is that? Well, again, we are allied with Israel, and a lot of our militaries are already fused, despite HR 8800 intervening in all of that, as well as all of these different stories. But again, they're coming straight from just north of Jerusalem and southwest of the West Bank. So very interesting. Pretty much this airport right here. So crazy to think about it. It's crazy to look at all of this and really just see where we're at. There really is just no getting around it. This war is heating up. So again, let's look at some more breaking news on X and see what's new.
Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's been leading a very...
Marjorie Taylor Greene in the media doing her thing. Footage from Loristan province in western Iran reportedly shows an object streaking through the night sky with early speculation it could be a missile headed towards Iranian Kurdish opposition groups in the northern Iraq. And again, the source is DD Geopolitics on Telegram. So we're going to be seeing a lot of this different footage, and that's really what we're going to be focusing on today.
We did not vote for this. We voted for...
So again, when we look at this, pretty wild. This has come from the IRGC, and they're announcing that the countdown has begun and that the United States and Israel will regret it. Yep, so we could have been done with this war, but Trump wanted to keep it going because he wanted an excuse to fight, really. I think Trump did want to... I think Trump wants to continue this war. I don't think he wants to end the war. I don't think it's in his better interest to end the war, because you have to think about the Abraham Accords and who stands to gain. Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff, who is negotiating that deal. It is Trump's family. It is Trump's closest people. And so ultimately, how can you expect that anything related to this Iran war is going to, not be of interest to Trump? So again, more footage reports that Iran's IRGC fired missiles towards the Gulf, waiting for confirmation. But here's the video I saw. It is unconfirmed. So again, we got a lot of invasions happening over the world. The Irish are ready to burn the entire city of Belfast down to the ground over the Sundanese immigrants trying to... Didn't mean to click that. Pretty crazy. Yeah, Ireland is taking... They're seeing a big migrant invasion right now, though. That is definitely happening. Send them home, send them home, they're shouting. And then again, this is a house in Belfast occupied by immigrants, which was torched. Again, this is in Ireland. And I believe that the Ireland people do need to fight for their land. It's rather important that you fight for your land. So again, when we continue looking at this, we also have the massive teen takeovers that have been taking place. Again, reports are coming in that cars are being stopped and checked for migrants in Belfast. Oh, this is still Northern Ireland. I thought this was the U.S. Yeah, a lot of this is breaking news to me. So this is just 3 hours ago. So again, this is all from Northern Ireland. So talk about an invasion, right? These are definitely not peaceful people. These are not peaceful immigrants wearing black coats, black hats. And a lot of these could be the natives, too, just protesting for their country at this point. You don't even know when you look at Europe today. It doesn't even look the same. You can't even go to Ireland for a vacation anymore because the country has flooded the place with illegal migrants. And very violent ones, at the least. And we've seen a lot of different stories on that. A white man was just killed this morning. Literally just attempted murder, and I think he actually succeeded. The man ended up dying, and I won't get too graphic with it, but that was a big story. Breaking news, reportedly Iranian warplanes in the skies over Tehran, seen like this. Interesting developments, ladies and gentlemen. This Iran war is not stopping anytime soon. Again, more footage of Belfast, Ireland, attacking homes that belong to black and brown people, including some families. Children are living in fear as they attack with bricks, sticks, and other objects. Where's the police? Well, at the end of the day, the police probably think that they're migrants. They're dressing like the migrants, because that is what the migrants typically wear, too. And they're doing it because it's like they're getting their country taken over, and they have every right to in many regards. You know, obviously you can't resort to violence, though, and you have to use ways of diplomacy and strategy and wealth and power. You have to secure these mechanisms, or you will find yourself in jail. So be careful out there. Again, the Black Panthers are gathering today, attempting to launch a race war outside the Collin County Courthouse. This is from Nick Sortor's X account. After Carmelo Anthony was found guilty, we got to tell our kids the truth that this is a racist country. We got to tell them the truth. This is a war. Don't nobody want to hear about what we do to each other. We talking about what they doing to us. White folks kill white folks. Mexicans kill Mexicans. We ain't trying to hear no cool stuff today. Go open up with them white folks with that. This is a racist-ass country. And so this is what this lady had to say. I won't play it just because I don't want to give it too much attention, because we're really focusing on the war here and anything that's breaking news on X. So again, this is a big blow for Iran, though. Back to the Iran war. Command Center, Air Force Defense Systems, radar, drone storage facilities, and missile launchers have been targeted in ongoing joint ops by the U.S. Navy and Air Force in Iran. The IRGC positions in Qasem Island, Bandar Abbas, Sarik Island, and Bandar Ajask have been targeted. But again, this isn't going to really affect them. I think the Iranians are obviously going to continue. They're not going to stop. This is not going to get any control over the Strait of Hormuz for the United States. This is actually going to hurt the United States more. We had a peace agreement. We had a ceasefire going, and now we're ruining it. We're destroying that. And what is the purpose in it? Truly, what is the real benefit? Initial reports of explosions on Qasem Island. So again, this is everything we're seeing right now. Meanwhile, in Israel, Israeli settlers are burning Taiba now, ancient Christian villages, under attack. Israeli settlers are attacking Taiba right now, setting fires across the ancient Christian village in occupied Palestine. Taiba is one of the oldest living Christian communities in the world. See, again, another Christian community. Earlier in this live stream, we talked about how Lebanon had struck Tyre, Lebanon, and basically an entire Christian village, and they evacuated in a Christian village, so they say, even though 8 were killed. And now we have this happening. What is with the Israelis against Christians? I don't understand what the connection is there. Why is that happening? Again, you just seem to see it every day. Taiba is the home of the oldest living Christian community in the world. It's where Jesus took refuge after the resurrection of Lazarus, according to the Gospel of John. This village has existed for thousands of years. The 5th century church of St. George, on the oldest churches in Palestine, is under threat. Homes are being targeted. Not a peep from Western mainstream media. And that is why I try to cover it. Ultimately, this is why my live stream doesn't get as many views, is because I cover these topics. And again, when we look at this, looks like a lot of race baiting stuff. Looks like a lot of that. And again, JP Sears posted our greatest ally, ? And again, this is just a recap of Thomas Massey talking about the USS Liberty and kind of the anniversary on that.
USS Liberty,
we'll play this
even
video
though
again. We played this a little bit yesterday, covering Thomas Massey. I played the full video yesterday. Go back on yesterday's stream and watch that. But this is Thomas Massey talking about the USS Liberty a bit.
It was harrowing, and it's amazing. If not for that crew, that boat would have sunk that day. But it still wasn't over. Helicopters showed up, combat helicopters. And the USS Liberty, even though their signals were being jammed by the Israelis, got a signal out. And there were ships that tried to respond. The USS Saratoga, the USS America sent planes, both of them sent planes to help the USS Liberty. And something happened that's never happened before. A ship under attack, the planes were recalled. This has never happened before.
That's weird.
And they sat there for 17 hours. 34 dead, 174 wounded, out of 294 crew members. That's over 70% casualty rate, unheard of. The Israelis were intent on leaving no survivor.
So again, that's Thomas Massey. And again, I think it's interesting timing. We see that this entire strike happens last night on an Apache helicopter, a U.S. military Apache helicopter. And again, 2 of our soldiers, apparently they survived. But ultimately, I think it's weird what's happening. It's like this is like a lure to get the United States back into this war. And the administrators around Trump are just getting him involved again and again and again. And I don't think he wants to not be involved. So ultimately, it is kind of crazy when you look at what's happening. Again, 57-year anniversary of USS Liberty just yesterday, and we're one day after that, and bam, this happens. And suddenly, we're back into a war with Iran after we just had a ceasefire. None of this makes any sense. And the only way it does make sense is if you realize what's really happening. And again, that was the story that happened in Ireland there. The Israeli military kidnapped a U.S. citizen. That was 7 hours ago. FBI Cyber Division. Today, the FBI is announcing Operation Riptide, an ongoing coordinated law enforcement campaign targeting cyber criminal actors and the key services they rely on, their infrastructure, their tools and services, their communication platforms, and their money. Operation Riptide is a collective effort that implements the priorities set out in Executive 14390 and the National Cyber Strategy. In recent weeks, the FBI carried out a broad range of law enforcement actions against cyber threat actors, serving search warrants, securing indictments, arresting suspects, and dismantling criminal infrastructure. This marks the beginning of a focused, sustained 60-day national effort. Cybercrime carries real-world consequences, and the FBI remains committed to disrupting malicious cyber activity and holding cyber criminals accountable.
America. Cyber-enabled crime, fraud, and predatory. I'm Heath Yankee, Assistant Director of the FBI's Criminal Division.
And I'm Brett Leatherman, Assistant Director of the FBI's Cyber Division. Last year, Americans filed more than 1 million complaints with the FBI, reporting over $20 billion in losses to cybercrime and online fraud.
Probably a lot of crypto.
A 26% increase in losses in a single year. Cyber criminals and nation-state actors are growing more sophisticated, targeting victims across the United States and around the world. Today, the FBI is announcing Operation Riptide, an ongoing coordinated law enforcement campaign targeting criminal actors and the key services they rely on, their infrastructure, their tools and services, their communications platforms, and their money. Operation Riptide implements the priorities the White House set out in Executive Order 14390 and President Trump's cyber strategy for America.
Don't these guys just look like feds? These guys just look like FBI agents. They just totally look the part. Just think it's kind of funny.
Cyber-enabled crime, fraud, and predatory schemes are draining American families of their savings and preying on those least able to absorb the loss. These schemes increasingly operate through organized criminal networks and online services that support them, often reaching across borders to evade law enforcement.
True.
Operation Riptide is a collective effort, leveraging federal coordination and international engagement to confront that harm at its source. Executive Order 14390 directs the government to protect Americans from cybercrime, fraud, and predatory schemes, and the FBI has the authorities and capabilities to go after the criminal actors and the services and infrastructure they depend upon.
Our goal is to apply persistent pressure on cyber adversaries and destabilize the criminal ecosystems that enable them. Through targeted operations and sustained disruption, we will drive cascading costs, increasing risk, disrupting revenue, and degrading adversary capability.
This is going to be extremely pertinent, too, with this entire Iran war that's happening. And the reason I played this is because of that. That's something you're going to have to be watching out for is Iranian hackers, Israeli hackers, and all of these different foreign nations that are coming into our countries now, and even from across into different countries. They're always trying to target users for Bitcoin scams, particularly a big thing you see. They'll try to get you through emails, try to get you through Facebook Messenger. They'll try to get you through a bunch of different stuff and a bunch of different strategies. So that's why you always have to be very careful when you're online. You have to also always make sure you're cycling through on different passwords. And ultimately, this is the key importance of this issue. So it's good that the FBI is doing this.
In recent weeks, the FBI carried out a broad range of enforcement actions against cyber threat actors, serving search warrants, securing indictments, arresting suspects, dismantling criminal infrastructure, and seizing millions in cryptocurrency. Together, these actions show that cybercrime carries real-world consequences, and the FBI will hold cyber criminals accountable for their actions.
Today marks the beginning of a focused, sustained national effort. Our criminal and cyber division teams, all 56 field offices, and our law enforcement attachés around the world are engaged in this mission. If you believe you are a victim of a cyber-enabled fraud or cybercrime, reach out to your local FBI field office or file a complaint at ic3.gov. Over the next 60 days, the FBI will impose costs and hold malicious cyber actors accountable. You will hear more from us as we work to protect the American people.
Well done, FBI. Keep it up. Keep it up. This is what Elon Musk had to say 3 hours ago. Mass immigration is insane and will lead to the destruction of any country that allows unfettered mass migration. Brendan Ecker didn't say that. Elon Musk said it. Maybe he's right, though.
The mass immigration is insane and will lead to the destruction of any country that allows unfettered.
This is the richest man in the world, by the way. The most powerful, richest man in the world. You could assume that he's probably the smartest, or at least top 3. And he's saying this. What do you think that tells you?
Mass immigration. That country will simply cease to exist. At the end of the day, it is a numbers game, a numbers situation. If there are 8 billion people in the world, and let's say you're a country of, 50 million, 60 million, or, for a medium-sized country, but even for a country like the United States, which is 350 million, given that there are 8 billion people in the world, it only takes a few % of the rest of the world to move to the country to where it is no longer that country.
And people really think that this isn't a thing. People think that, oh yeah, well, skin color doesn't matter, and the place of where you were born doesn't matter, and it's like, well, it does. It absolutely does, because we all do have ancestral heritage and roots to these countries, to our own countries, and we all do have a certain place where we come from, where our ancestors came from. So I think this is really important.
It's geography. A country is its people. This is a fundamental concept that is truly obvious. I mean, if you took the people of Italy and you teleported the people of Italy to, say, some part of the United States, it would still be Italy. But if you teleported a bunch of people from some other part of the world to Italy, where the Italian people are no longer, because they've been teleported to America, then the region, the geographic region, would no longer be Italy. It would be that other country. A country is its people, not its geography.
100%. It's so true, though. He's right. Elon is absolutely right, because ultimately what he's saying is, it's like, if you have a village of, to put it in even easier perspectives to understand, if you have a nation of 500 people, or you have a city of 500 people, and let's say an army comes in of 2,000 people, and you only have 500 people, well, it's that people now. Whatever that other people is, regardless of what their race is or whatever, again, it would become that people. Okay, so again, you got a village of 500 people, another village comes over with 10,000 people, well, that's their village now, just so you know. And imagine if they looked completely different than you. Imagine if they worshipped a completely different religion than you. Imagine if they actually hated the religion that you worshipped. Imagine if they wanted to change everything about your society. Imagine if they didn't know about your history, your heritage. Imagine if they didn't even care or think about those things, which is a very real thing. So again, really interesting. Routinely, yeah. So again, a lot of big stuff happening on Twitter when it comes to this. But ultimately, that's a lot of what we're seeing when it comes to this news today, when it comes to this entire Israel strike and the Iran strikes. A lot of big things happening. Breaking: Republican sweeping immigration enforcement and border security packages cleared the House, and ending a months-long standoff with Democrats over funding Trump's immigration crackdown agenda. The $70 billion measure passed 214 to 212 along party lines and now heads for the president's desk for signature. So very important to think about. So again, update: Senate Leader John Thune says the Save America Act is dead. Not good. We needed that.
But are you worried that if you don't do what the president wants, that he's going to criticize your leadership or perhaps withdraw support for your leadership?
That could happen. Look, and it's a well-known fact around here. Sometimes perhaps not fully grasp around the country, but anybody who follows this process closely knows that we don't have the votes. And the only way that you could figure out a way to get the votes, and even in that case, the Save America Act didn't even get 50 votes last week on the floor of the Senate. But even if you confine it to just the
That's crazy. If you don't know what the Save America Act is, the Save America Act basically requires there to be fair elections. No more mail-in ballots like you're seeing in Los Angeles right now. You're seeing Karen Bass somehow, or you're seeing not Karen Bass, that other lady who nobody even knew. She like had 1% on the ballots. Nobody was voting for her. And all of a sudden, overnight, all these mail-in ballots come in, and every single one was for this girl and not Spencer Pratt. Even though Spencer Pratt, everywhere you look on social media, is in complete favor of the people and the public. And so you know that Spencer Pratt is the rightful winner, but in the state of California, you don't have fair elections. This country, the United States, does not have fair elections. And what do they say? For saying that, you get censored. For saying that, they say, well, where's your proof? Proof, look at what look around. You know, proof, there's thousands of videos we could go through right now on the internet finding these ballot keepers who will triple vote. Some of them will rip up different ballots where people vote for a certain person. You know, you'll see people bringing in boxes, bags, truckloads of ballots, and they will all be for the same person. It's crazy. This is exactly what's happening in the state of California, the city of Los Angeles today for the mayor's race. And this is why we need the Save America Act.
Register to vote on those two issues. It takes 60 votes in the Senate. The only way you could get there is to undo or get rid of the legislative filibuster, and there aren't even close to the votes here in the United States Senate in order to achieve that. So it's an issue we all agree on. We're all for it. And
it's common
we all
sense.
voted that way. But it's not something
it's common sense.
We're going to be able to get done absent
of course you're not
having an election and electing some more.
What can the Republicans ever get done? You know, the Republicans are supposed to be, they were supposed to be the ragtag team that got everything done, and they did everything that they voted on, and they've done nothing. And they fail every time, and they can never do it. All you ever hear is, oh, well, we weren't able to get it done. So again, back to the Iran war. Wave 3 of the U.S. attacks on Iran is confirmed. Update on drinking water war crime by U.S. Bandar Abbas, Qasem, Sariq, and Jaska again. Footages of Bandar Abbas pending confirmations. Iran's MIR confirmed the first two. Details of the American attack on water infrastructure. Destruction of 2 water tanks in the Bamani district of Sariq, Hamozgan, and Kastan. Abu Mad Hazampour, CEO of Hormozgan Province Water and Waterworks Company. These tanks included a 500 cubic meter tank and 2,000 cubic meter tank, which played a key role in supplying drinking water to the Bamani district and the city of Koshak. Currently, the water distribution process in all villages. Operational and crisis management teams and the water companies are working to implement alternative measures to provide substantial water supply. So again, we're taking out the desalination plants, essentially, of these Iranians, and we're stripping them of their water now. And what do you think that's going to do? That will continue the war. And that is not going to stop the war anytime soon. So who made America do that one? Was it really Trump, or was it those around Trump? Was it Netanyahu, perhaps? 37 minutes ago, Iran shoots down American MQ-9 drone over Jam region. Again, this is in Tasnim. Pretty crazy. And this is everything we're seeing. And then meanwhile, on U.S. soil, we have protests all over the country, left versus right, total division, and everybody's distracted by race wars. We will leave no attack or threat unanswered. That is from the Iranian embassy. And so again, who knows what's going to happen next? This war is probably going to continue on. We're going to be seeing a lot of developments over the night as we continue watching this. But this is going to be very, very big. Very, very interesting. This is everything we're seeing on Twitter today. This is all of the big news. Iran sees international law as actually being very important. International legal scholar Mariam Jamshidi joined Deep Drop site to explain the legal argument behind Iran's position on the Strait of Hormuz. So again, interesting things. So ultimately, that's all we're going to cover for today. That's what you're seeing on Nets, though. You got race wars, you got violence, you have war. And at the end of the day, well, how are you handling it? So be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe if you are liking this information. And I will be posting more shorts over the night, updating you on everything that's happening with the Iran war, the Russia-Ukraine war. We didn't really talk about that a lot today because I wanted to focus more on this one subject and more on this retaliation that the U.S. had against Iran for this alleged Apache that had been shot down, which the Iranians did not take credit for. So kind of interesting how all of this is happening and developing. We're going to see how it develops over into the next 24 hours, and I will see you next time. Ultimately, stay safe, stay prudent, stay powerful, and stay wealthy. What do you think about everything that you're seeing? Leave a comment below. And without further ado, I have nothing else. See you later.